Welcome everyone to our first webinar. Really happy to be here with you, even though virtually we're in the same room somehow. So today we'll be talking about something that affected our life. Well, 1 year ago it started and it's still lasting. Probably no one expected it's going to last so long, but we're here. So before we start, just few things that probably you heard already before. So we'll be recording the whole session. And then live streaming the first part of it on Facebook. In a few minutes, we will start the Facebook Live, so you will be able to understand when we're actually also live there. As Laura wrote in the chat, it would be great if you could use your name in the Zoom. So if you can just write a name and the organization. You can do that by, if you find on yourself the three buttons, if you right click on the three buttons, there's an option to rename. Also, oops, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself so we can hear each other well. It's also recommended to have the camera on so we can at least connect like this visually on distance. But if you don't feel it, that's completely fine. It's all good, all allowed. Also use the chat box for questions, comments, if you want to share something with the group. And also we encourage active participation and sharing, which you can do in the chat box and also during the discussion and later on in the breakout rooms. So for today, the plan is getting started, obviously. We'll start with a panel discussion with Benjamin and Katerina. They will be sharing their experiences. And then at the end of it, we'll have time for questions. We'll also take questions from Facebook Live if there will be some. And then we will divide into 5 smaller groups where you will be able to share your experiences. You got the questions on your email yesterday. Those who registered today, maybe you didn't get them, but they will be there also in the group and we'll share them in the chat. Then we'll have a report from the breakout rooms to share what you discussed with the whole group. And then towards the end, we'll close it with a little self-reflection exercise and say, see you soon until next time. Yes. Okay, Laura, so this is the time where you can press the button for the sharing. Let me just, I can't see you. Let me know when it's on so I can understand.
Yes, it works.
It works? Okay.
Yes.
So welcome everyone to our first IRTS Virtual Networking webinar. Today we'll be talking about COVID-19, something that impacted our life very much, also the sports sector. But we'll be talking about it more connected to the refugees and how organizations and sports clubs have adapted to it and faced the challenges. So we will start, well, with me. I'll be your host for today. So my name is Monica and I'm part of the ISCA team, responsible for online learning and being part of lots of different projects. I will invite now my lovely panelists. So we will have Katerina and Benjamin. So Katerina is part of International Olympic Truth Center, and Benjamin is part of the FC Krajinem-ish, to share their experiences. So are you here on board? Oops. Okay, yes, I'll stop sharing. Yes, I'll stop sharing so I can see you more. Okay. Yes, so I'd like to start with just if you could briefly introduce yourselves, tell a bit about your organization and what are you doing in terms of the refugees and the activities with refugees. Who will start?
Ladies first.
Katerina?
Thank you, Benjamin. So hello all, thank you very much for the kind invitation. And I hope we will have a very productive conversation for all of us. And of course, especially for the persons who we are supporting after under these difficult circumstances. So my name is Katarina Salta. I am from Athens, Greece, and I'm the Sport for Protection Program Manager of the International Olympic Truth Center, an initiative founded in 2000 by the International Olympic Committee and the Greek government. Our mission is to promote the Olympic ideals, to serve peace and friendship, and to uphold the observance of the Olympic truth. Mainly, we are achieving our goals through non-formal educational programs, most of the cases delivered directly by Olympians and Paralympians to children and youth. My sector within the organization, the Sport for Protection one, has to do specifically and mostly with refugees and migrants living in Greece, the newcomers, as we call them, the ones who came to Greece the recent years. So back in March 2019, 2 years ago, we co-founded with the International Olympic Truth Center, STFC, the first refugee and migrant women football team in Greece. And we use football as a tool for protection, empowerment, social inclusion, as well as the promotion of the Olympic ideals and the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. Our activities include football trainings as well as workshops regarding the Sustainable Development Goals and the Olympic ideals. And I don't want to take more of your time. I'm sure that I can go ahead forever, but it's time for Benjamin now.
Yes, thanks. Indeed, my name is Benjamin. I'm from Krainem Football Club, which is an amateur club located just next to Brussels in Belgium. First of all, I wanted to say that my neighbors decided to do renovation works today, and they're a bit loud, so I hope the quality of the noise will be fine. Otherwise, excuse me for that. Our club, Krainem Football Club, the particularity of the club is that we have a very multicultural club. We have more than 40 different nationalities represented amongst our youth players. This is really the identity of the club that we promote, and we would like to talk about it and to explain how social inclusion is a reality within our club. And that is not new, that has been the case for years. But what is a bit more recent, that we started in 2015, is the integration of asylum seekers and refugees within the club. It is based on a partnership that we have with FedAsyl. This is the federal agency for the reception of asylum seekers in Belgium. And they have different reception centers among the country, which we are collaborating with. So we have asylum seekers and refugees coming to the club from Monday to Friday. They follow a whole program consisting of football training sessions, but also an educational program where we give language courses and conversation classes, etc. So we've been doing this for now 5 years, and we've been evolving and trying to grow at our level, but also to promote our project within Belgium and abroad, with the goal to create networks of Belgian clubs and also international networks that would be inspired by our work and reproducing what we are doing at their level. So that is the project in normal situation, but I suppose we'll go to the situation in the COVID time.
Yes, a lot of windows open. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'd like to now continue, as you mentioned, Benjamin, to the activities during the Corona. So if you have done some activities during the lockdown, and what were the challenges that you actually faced when doing them? So the question obviously goes to both, but maybe we can continue with Benjamin and then Katerina.
Yes, so indeed, 1 year ago, suddenly we went into, probably like most of you, into a strict lockdown in Belgium. And the club had to be closed completely, and we couldn't organize anything. So that was obviously a pretty new situation. We didn't really know how to handle it, but in fact we had no choice because football activities were forbidden at that time. But I would say the most interesting challenge wasn't at that moment, because then we had no choice, but the biggest challenge was to learn how to deal with the evolving measures, which is probably something that happened in now European countries and even abroad. During the past year, we had to we have been seeing the level of the pandemic evolve, and also the measures that were evolving, going from being not able to do any sports to allowing us to play normally and to have a project running normally, and to going to a situation where we're right now, where some things are possible, but not everything. To give you an example about the situation in Belgium right now, sports is authorized outside in small groups of 10 people for youth players. So this means that we have to create what we call in Belgium bubbles of maximum 10 people that are staying together and playing as one group. And the different bubbles that we are making are not supposed to meet each other. So this has been really challenging for us, because many of our teams are consisting of more than 10 players, obviously. And so this is something that we have to completely rearrange and reschedule. Another problem with the system of the bubbles is that there is no possibility that, well, new people will enter the bubble. The bubble is fixed, and there is no contact between different bubbles. And so concretely concerning the program that we have with refugees, where this is an inclusion process, where refugees are entering the different teams of the club. Well, this is not possible when you have the philosophy of the bubbles, where every group stays together. And so at the moment, what we are doing is some sort of consensus where we allow football training sessions, but now, but not exactly as we would like to host them, not in an inclusion modus, but in separate bubbles. So the refugees play in their between themselves, and the club players play together. Whereas we would prefer them to play in the same group, which is the philosophy of the project, where they meet each other and where they're in contact. Well, now it is not possible, because they must stay in different groups. But that is, for the moment, the only possibility that we have, unfortunately.
Thank you. Katerina?
How
was it in your organization? Thanks.
Yeah. Difficult, challenging as everywhere, I suppose. Of course, every context is different. So the first lockdown started 1 year ago in March, and it lasted 2 months. In the beginning, we had no idea as to how to react, as everyone. And since we're trying to, and we do support our players inside and outside of the pitch, our main concern back then was to provide them all the necessary information. One of the biggest problems in these refugee contexts is always the gap of information. So the government, every day they were announcing different things, but no one was there to provide this information in other languages. So we kept on being in a continuous contact with them to provide them translation about the different measurements, etc., etc. And then we decided to train them to Zoom. And maybe training for many sounds too much as a term to be used for this reason. But yes, I mean, the refugees and asylum seekers are really comfortable with Facebook and social media in general, but this doesn't mean that they know how to use other internet computer tools. So we trained them. It took us a while. It took us a week to 10 days for them to understand, but we did it. And after that, we started live Zoom football trainings. Of course, we're talking about football exercises, football challenges, and so on. And we also continued our workshops regarding the Olympic values, the Olympics of sports in general, and of course, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So we continued normally our 2 football trainings and 1 workshop weekly for 2 months. Then in June, happy times, it was the time to get back to the pitch. So we returned, and this happy period lasted until the beginning of November. We were happily surprised. There were so many new registrations, so many girls and women wanted to register. Was quite surprising, but also, of course, very positive. So we continued back then the football trainings and the workshops, of course, having in mind all the necessary safety and all the necessary issues regarding safety, to keep distances, etc., etc. And then since the beginning of November, we continue virtually. Of course, it's not easy, but we do continue. And we do keep on providing them as much support as we can in every level. And since from the very beginning of the team, our players are always involved in decision making. It's been a while now, since the beginning of November, that we have a series of workshops focused on how we can love ourselves. And you can discuss about different things under this title. And it was a desire of one of our players. It was her suggestion. And so like this, we will continue probably until May. We will see.
Okay, thank you. So I will actually go to one of the questions that popped out during the registration. So how did you keep engaged with the participants, with the target group during the Corona? How did you remain in contact? It's one of the questions. If you have a good example.
It's not easy. You have to be persistent. You have to try again and again with multiple ways. We have our close Facebook group in order to exchange the necessary information since the beginning of the team. Sometimes this wasn't necessary. This wasn't necessarily successful this time. So we had to send them a message on their mobile phone, or to try to find within the players if they were in contact with another one, because they have become a close friends. So it wasn't easy, but you have to be persistent. You have to be there to listen to them, to stand by them, for them to understand that you're not only there just to ask them, are you going to join us? I mean, we still have a football team, even a virtual one. And sometimes even spending some time listening to them, even if you cannot actually help them, it helps a lot, because you're giving, again, this sparkle, if I may express like this empowerment that they need for them to move on in general, and so with the team as well.
Yeah, just to be human to another human being, right? Thank you. Benjamin, maybe one of the things we discussed some time ago was about how your organization adapted quite very quickly in all of this. With the restrictions and everything. Could you share a bit how fast actually the decision-making process was, just to share with others?
Indeed. So what we always try to take out of a difficult situation, of a crisis, is it is not always easy, but the positive aspects of it, because we've been challenged a lot during the last months. And we had to adapt completely the way we are working, but somehow it is still possible, I think, to find some positive elements from the situation. For example, what is probably the case for all of you, what we are doing right now, is having Zoom sessions and all these digital meetings, which is not something that was usual in our activities, because in the past, when we had to have a meeting, we would schedule that meeting for next week, for example, lose a few days, then we will have the meeting, decide about some points that needed to be implemented, and it would take another week before something would happen. And so in fact, the previous way of working was not very efficient. Whereas right now, to give you a concrete example, in Belgium, the government organizes its press conferences on Friday nights concerning the Corona measures. And so on Friday night, we know what new measures will be applied on the next Monday, and we have a weekend to adapt. So what we have done right now is, well, after every press conference, we organize a Zoom meeting with the people that are concerned within the club, and we decide about how to handle with these new measures, to make sure that on Monday morning an email is sent to all the relevant stakeholders to make sure that the new measures will start on that day. And so that is something that has really improved concerning the general way we are working at the club. Of course, because we have been forced to do that, otherwise we would never have done it. But I think it is interesting to see how you can learn from a challenging situation and take out some benefits. This is a very obvious one that I think would be applicable to all of us. But I'm sure there's a lot more of such examples that could be applied and that are really important for us in the future, even after the Corona crisis.
Thank you. I'm wondering if any of you actually if any of your organizations were cooperating with other organizations during this time, and how was this cooperation in terms of the activities for refugees?
What I can say about it, well, in fact, we have a main partner that I mentioned earlier, which is FedAsyl, and which is providing us with the participants, namely the refugees and asylum seekers. And of course, we're always in contact with them to discuss about the needs and of the participants, and to make sure that the program is adapted to them as much as possible. But what we realized even more over the last months is how much the population, that the residents of the asylum centers were in a very strict lockdown, much more than we were, or that the regular club players were. For example, during the summer, where in Belgium people were gaining more and more liberties, when we thought that Corona was maybe over, we learned that in some of the reception centers, the refugees were only allowed to go out for half an hour per day, and for the rest of the time they were staying inside. So you must imagine that these people are already not having very easy lives on a daily basis, have to deal with a lot of uncertainty. And then during the summer, where the weather is nice, you need to stay inside and you only have half an hour to go out. And they were really afraid that the Corona outbreak would break out in the center, or that maybe they would come to the club and bring the virus to the club, and then people would say, well, look, it's the refugees who came to the club and they brought the virus here. So we really felt that about the center, that they were really caring a lot about the measures, even more than they were supposed to do. And that is something, when we realized that, it made us even more, we really were totally convinced that we had to absolutely give them the opportunity to come back to the club, respecting the measures, obviously, but to give them the opportunity to do something and to go out and to play football again, because this is the only liberty that they had at the moment.
Thank you, Katerina. Anything from your side regarding cooperation with other organizations during the COVID?
Collaborations are always really, really important for us. Together we can always do more. It's not about promoting who we are, what we do. So that's the way we continue, by organizing virtual events, campaigns, whatever we can do with our partners. And for example, now we're organizing with Athens Women Football Summit and the Equality in Soccer Foundation a series of one monthly event regarding women's football and the refugee women's football. Will start next month. We start actually with the International Women's Day occasion, and we will continue. The really important feature difference during this COVID times is that in these virtual events, webinars, whatever, more of our players can participate. It sounds weird, but it does happen. So during this event that I already referred about, the International Women's Day, the speakers were actually two of our players. So it wasn't us the talking in a conference or whatever, it was them. And this for me is very important. Yes, but yes, we continue our collaborations as much as we can. Of course, the personal feature, the actual meeting is always different, but we had to adjust.
Thank you. Do we have some questions from participants? I don't see anything in the chat. Lina, is there something? If someone would like to ask a question, I can unmute yourself. Okay, we have one now. David, do you want to speak, or should we just read it? Read it.
As you want. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Thanks to Catherine and Benjamin for sharing. My question is if, in your experience, have the refugees' priorities changed in relation to sport activities after a few months of pandemic? And for instance, if their road to the path to the training sessions was affected by the new restrictions, and in some ways, if there were some like spontaneous or bottom-up way of organizing themselves in order to overcome these difficulties. Thanks.
First of all, happy to see you. It's been a long time since Rome 2017 or 16, I don't even remember. Good question, interesting one. They have been affected, but I would say they have been affected like everyone else. And what do I mean by that? Regarding public transportation, there are people who are afraid of using the public transportation during these times, and others who are not, or are less, and will not stop their activities or some things because of that. And this is the same, I believe, for refugees or for European citizens. So we do have some players who were really hesitating to use public the transport because of COVID, but others who didn't care at all. In general, their lives, they have been affected as everyone's lives, meaning there are no activities in general within the refugee camps, for example, right now. The organization cannot support them on that. So this means that, again, they're bored, they're frustrated, they're angry, they're whatever, like we are. But of course, in a very, very difficult situation, we cannot compare the way we live with theirs, with their living conditions. And this means that the psychological trauma arises again or becomes even worse. So this means that, yes, sometimes they don't continue to be dedicated, to be committed to what they were before, like sport activities. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just giving you suggestions, and public transportations was just an issue, but we can discuss everything basically.
If I can add something to that, I would like to say that in our experience, we really observed that all of them, I mean, from what I've been seeing, are really understanding all the measures, understanding what it is about. We were a bit concerned at some point, because you must imagine coming from a different country and suddenly you arrive here and it is the Corona crisis, and you have all these measures and you are in a new environment. That would be really strange. But for example, wearing a mask, all of them are wearing a mask, even sometimes when they play football, which is not really necessary outside, but still. So the acceptance of all the rules and measures is really high. I don't really see fear of concerning public transport or something else. But what we have seen recently is that there was an outbreak in one of the centers that we are working with, and more than half of the residents were positive, and also some of the people working in the center, and then they have seen concretely what it was, because some of them were really sick. Some of the people working there didn't come from 1 or 2 weeks. Then I could really see concretely what it was about and understand, oh, this is really serious. It is not only a story that we hear about in the news, but I can see here my friend that has been sick for 1 week. So now I understand what it is about. But even before that, I would say that the that really understood that they had to follow the measures, but without being really being afraid of it.
If I may add something, David, it was really what was really surprising. It was quite interesting during our first virtual workshop last March, end of March, beginning of April. The team includes, of course, the management team, the training team, volunteers, and the players. We, and when I say we, the management, training team, and the volunteers who are from Greece or other countries, but Western ones, all of us during the workshop, we discussed and we expressed our frustration, etc., etc. Our players expressed, all of them, not even one had a different opinion. That's, you know what, my life didn't change. I was in a bad situation before anyway. I don't have the financial capacity to do things anyway. I'm not in mood because of the uncertainty about my future, about the difficult living conditions that I have to deal with right now. So nothing really changed for us. Back then, of course, after such a long time, everyone is tired, and with no programs, no activities, of course, they're more frustrated than ever.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Thanks, thanks for good questions. So we have some more. So Ioana, so it's about women in sport. Do you think they're ready in Greece to participate in any kind of sport?
Ioana, are you here?
Yes, I am here. I just heard my question. I'm Ioana. I am a legal representative of PT organization here in Kavala, Greece. Nice to meet all of you, first of all. Nice to meet you also, Katerina. Sorry about the camera. I have a few issues, so I just turned it off. My question is about the women, because we have a camp here in Kavala, but I know that the women are very protected. So you mentioned before about women in sport. How can we participate in sport with them? Because we have a project during the summer called Sun Games for Social Inclusion, and we cannot involve in any way women in this one. We have a lot of men, boys under 18, but we cannot involve. They are very protected. So what can we do about this?
First of all, you need to motivate men of their community to involve in your team, men of, and inform all the camp, the entire camp, about the benefits of sport. Secondly, I would, and I did in the past, I would identify even one woman who has participated in sports in her country. Again, I would include her in my team as a volunteer, not necessarily as an employee. You need to try again and again and again, and to talk to them, and maybe to, if you have the possibility to have some screenings with women of their own culture, of their own countries in sport. There are so many great examples there's so many role models that you can use. There are many, many ways. I mean, it would take a lot of time for me to explain everything right now, but it would be more than my pleasure if you contact me, and I could give you more feedback about that. But the community is the key. The leaders of the community, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Katerina.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we can connect you also, so you can maybe after the webinar you can talk and see if you can do something together. So we have some more questions. I think we'll just address them because I think it would be interesting to hear, but others are free to answer the questions and just share your opinion. So one of them is from Daniela from Italy. So how do you see the future of reopening? Do you think people will still be afraid by practicing sport and blame refugees to bring the virus? How can we work to overcome this problem? Which kind of communication and how to involve local communities? So open to all. If maybe Benjamin or Katerina have something to say, would be great. Otherwise, yes, we can also continue in the chat. Yes.
This is something we have been concerned about from the moment we brought refugees back to the club. So it started in June. That is so between March and June, the club was closed, and then in June we started with our activities. But then we had to be really careful, exactly as Daniela is saying, to avoid miscommunication or fake news that would be running. And so what we told to our local community, and which is true, is that all the asylum seekers, when they arrive at the center, the first thing that they do is do a COVID test. And that is something that is for sure that they have been doing since now for the last year. And almost all of them are negative, and if someone would be positive, well, he would get special treatment. But so we knew for sure that all the participants that were coming to the club have had a negative test a few days before coming to the club. So this gave some more trust in the whole process. And also because, well, the players of the local community were not tested. So I would say that there was more security about the refugees coming than the rest of the club. But indeed, it is very important to be aware of that and to communicate towards the club community. But I must say that the will to play football is much bigger than the fear for the coronavirus. So if you put both in the scale, well, it is clear that people want to play football and want to come back together, even though there is always a risk, and there will be aware of it and don't take too many risks, but they prefer to come back. And it's only a small minority that would prefer to stay home.
Thank you. Okay, so we have some solutions already in the chat for the or recommendations how to involve women and girls, refugees in sports activity. So if there's no other questions, we'll slowly go into the breakout rooms. But we can also obviously address the questions later on. So, okay. No questions. Okay, at this point, then I will say see you soon to everyone on Facebook Live. So we will continue with our webinar series in May. So I'm kindly inviting you to join us for the next one, which will be on 12th of May. And the topic will be Never Stop Learning. So we will be sharing tools and good examples of how to train the trainers, how to train the refugees. The registration will be open 2 weeks before, so make sure you check the Facebook ISCA page and also our website. Thank you for joining on Facebook. We will stay and go into the breakout rooms. See you in the next one in May. Thank you. Okay, so this was yes, thank you for very active participation. This is very nice, super happy about it. Yeah, so we will go to the breakout rooms now in smaller groups, as mentioned before. So we'll have 5 groups. We'll have 5 groups with about 5-6 people from different organizations, and in each of the group there will be an ISCA staff who will be taking notes and also keeping the time. We're gonna have 25 minutes for the breakout room. I think it should be enough. And the questions, I prepared some guiding questions, which are actually very similar to the ones we had right now. we'd like you to talk about the challenges that your organization faced, the solutions that you found, and the learnings that you gained. Yes, I'm not sure if I forgot something. No, yeah. Any questions? Laura, did I forget something?
Could you copy the questions into the chat as well?
Yes, sure.
Before
I
we
will
go.
do that.
Yes.
So I'll copy the questions in the chat, and also ISCA team has access to it, so you will have them also there. Yeah, and then we will be back to the main room in 25 minutes, where we will have short summary of the discussions, and also if there will be some more questions coming out, we can also address them. Yes.
Thank you, Monica. I will start the breakout rooms now.
Okay, see you back in 25. And yeah, we're kind of waiting for the opening. We also actually have Berber, which is kind of a new to the field and would actually like to do something with refugees. So it was interesting also to have someone who's motivated to start on activities. So I hope we can help her somehow and welcome her in this field. Yeah, the solution that were found in our case were that in case of Pythia, yes, if I pronounced correctly, because they can't do activities, they managed to extend the project, so they're hoping to do the activities this year. Other solutions were also like having a lot of online meetings, and then having with refugees having these challenges, so they would record some sort of a physical activity, like when they're doing something, keeping in contact through the social media, and also through WhatsApp. So these are quite, let's say, common ways just to make sure that, yeah, we're in touch with them. But then once things were allowed, so for example, Trentino, they were actually meeting up and going to the mountains. One of the important things is also that refugees would be mixed with the locals. So in case of Trentino, with the Italians, and if I understood correctly, also from Malta, they try to yeah, mix all of them. Learnings gained. So one a bit sad one, or like realistic one, let's say, that sport is not seen as an important thing in case of Italy. So the government doesn't feel that that's important, that it's just something fun. So we probably need to work on it more. And then the other one is also to be more hygienic. So to take care, to wash hands, to wear the mask. So yes, that's from my group. Next one.
It's group number 2, and it's Aska here from ISCA. And I also need to check my notes. The nice colors. I was in a gender balanced group. I was with 3 gentlemen, and we were 3 ladies as well. So beside me from ISCA and Almina, my new colleague, we had Marina from Sport for All Association Serbia, then Daniel from Schwericate from Switzerland, David from Italy, and Panos from Arsis from Greece. I would like to start with learnings, because you actually mentioned that the last one, Monica, and it's actually very similar. What we also discussed, the sport is not priority for refugees right now, because they have much bigger problems now than actually we have in the COVID time. And it was very clear for organizations last year. Then I would like to underline 2 or 3 topics, because all the rest is very similar to what you mentioned as well. And the important topic that was mentioned was mental health as well. So how to address the mental health and how sport can help. And that was addressed in some organizations as well, or in most of the organizations, or in physical activities. And then how the personal engagement of us, or as a staff or volunteers in different organizations, is how personal engagement was important in the in last year when contacting refugees and asylum centers and the local clubs as well, and to raise awareness how important it is for refugees also to do the sport and being engaged and thinking about other things, not just the situation they are in, and then the local communities are important when addressing or when bringing refugees or when organizing the activities as well. And that was still very important last year, but because many things were online, everything, it was quite different than before. And then what was also mentioned, and I think we are all facing that, is planning of activities. How difficult it is to plan something because we don't know what will happen next week. And Marina actually gave an example that they are planning an event next week, and they actually even today they don't know if the event can take place offline and how they can handle everything. And that also of course, organizational problems, financial problems, everything is just changing from a day to tomorrow. So that was mentioned as well. Yeah, that was dream team number 2.
Thank you. Next,
Excellent.
dream team.
Well, who can beat that, Saskia? Well, I will try. My name is Jakob. I'm Secretary General here in ISCA. We had a great group. If you don't mind, I will try to share my screen with the whiteboard we were creating. Allow me to try that. If you see my screen now, you'll be able to see we had, in fact, 4 participants, 3 direct contributors, Claudia from Finland, Leticia from WISP, and Martin from a European football perspective. Very good input. I will not go through all of it, but a few key learnings. One from Finland was interestingly that it took a lot of time to get used to new digital tools, but it's helpful actually to use what they already know, such as WhatsApp. And they also understood that we can't do all the great activities like football that we've been using to do, but we can do simple things through Zoom, such as minimal physical activities, and they have appreciated the little that was possible to do. From WISP, we've heard that key challenges we have to always observe remains that there is misconceptions, there is even racism, or at least different opinions about refugees, their living conditions, and reality of the risk that they are living in. And that's something that's been a big barrier, apart from what was obviously something very technically complicated to manage on a local level with volunteers, new regulations and lockdowns happening all the time, and not too much capacity to grasp with that. And then finally from Martin, good attempts from them to cope with the situation. And one thing I would just highlight here is the one called Goal Click, where in fact you can have a camera sent to you to observe and take pictures of an activity on the local level, and have that camera sent back to reveal some of those real live photos, to be able to share, to engage, to do again what is actually possible, even though there are clear limitations during lockdown. So I think the main conclusion from my side is that there is different attempts. There's a lot of goodwill to try, but we have to be frank and say that the challenges have been really massive for some of these organizations, from north in Finland to south in Italy, and also on that European level perspective. And we had Benjamin in our group too, who was happily observing and also learning from these experiences. Thank you very much to my group, and thank you for me.
Thank you. Next one.
Yes, it was group 4, our group. I would like to also share my screen. We took very good notes on our mural. Let me know if you're able to see. We were 6 people, including my colleague Lina from ISCA. Oh, sorry, I forgot to say that I'm from ISCA, is Hilal, working as project coordinator. We have Niles from Fair Network, Samantha from Balafon Societa Cooperativa Sociale. Sorry for my pronunciation. We have Mihai from Romania, Association Sport for All Saxiva, and Katerina, you all heard You all met her before this breakout rooms. We talked challenges one by one, solutions and learning gained. One of the challenges we faced is find proper alternatives for activities during the lockdown. Of course, this is one of, I guess, the biggest challenge for other organizations as well. Challenging to keep people at home, that was mentioned by Samantha. Keeping them safe, of course, the risk of getting infection. The camps were locked, hard to get in and work with people. Again, the big fear of the virus. The lack of the internet. We were also talking about the online options, doing the meetings and activities online, but of course, the lack of internet doesn't allow everybody to connect and continue with what we have been doing. So it was also a lack of motivation. I guess that's also something we personally feel sometimes, and we had less alternatives to motivate and inspire people. What are the solutions? What are the solutions we talked? We working with other organizations, and Niles mentioned that they've been focusing on doing research. Samantha said that online activities, we would like to continue as normal as possible with online activities. These kind of webinars and also other online platforms, we would like to meet more and more. This is also one common solution. Green spaces in camps. Mihai mentioned a very good idea that they have been doing. They have been creating green spaces in the camps to have the opportunity to go out for refugees and move in outdoor spaces and take advantage of the nature, of course. Katerina also mentioned that moving things online if possible, workshops. The technology is the biggest, I guess, theme here in the solutions. What we learned how to be flexible. We learned how to stay in touch and stay more connected. We try to work with other organizations as much as possible. Technology helped, but of course, we also mentioned that nothing will replace human contact because we need each other. We need face-to-face meetings and contacts. And people still want to do outdoor activities. And it was also, I guess, a learning in many different organizations to profit more outdoor places during lockdown. And the big message is we are not alone. We stay contact with others. We support each other. And technology also mentioned again by Katerina that we need to stay positive. Of course, technology has positive and negative sides, but yeah, again, it's not the same with human contact, of course. That's all from our group.
Awesome. Thank you, Hilal. And the last but not least, Mons, I think.
Yeah, that's group 5, and I will also share the notes. This is not a note competition, but anyway, these are notes from the group where there were 4 contributors: Alexia from Play International, Daniela from WISP Italy, and Andrea from Malta Football, and Ulysses from Ciudad de Murcia. And we have heard a lot of what was challenges, and let's say here there were different attempts from Play International in and around refugee camps and centers, also to make advocacy and networks between those who had access and working with refugees. A lot was postponed and made difficult, but they managed to make webinar every second month. And the statement from Italy, it's 1 year of grassroots sport closed, and if it was not hard for refugees before, it definitely was during this. And one statement is that depression, even more, is also a very bad factor. And then we had Malta And that was really inspiring because, as Andrea said, there were quite normal situation until a few weeks ago in Malta, and allowed up to 100 people. And I would like you to just think about this. And when we look upon allowed up to 100 people now, we think this is freedom. 1 year ago, this was a limitation. So this is how our mental part and opinion changed in 1 year. We would love up to 100 many places now, but we are hoping to get back to 10,000. A good point from Ulysses on how Spain, the general situation in Spain, has affected also this world with hurting motivation and making restrictions. And I would like to end this by a statement of Ulysses that it's here, limitations like this is not a way to work. It's reality, but it is not a way to work. Thank you.
Thank you very much to everyone, also to the ISCA team for taking the challenging notes in the new tool. Yeah, are there any questions that someone would like to address before we do the last closing exercise? I will consider that as a no. Otherwise, you can put it in chat. So, yeah, the last activity will be, just a second, a bit reflective, let's say. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. Yeah, so in a second, I'll share with you a link to the mural. So it's an online collaboration tool. And I would like us to take a few minutes to reflect on these things. So 3 things you're proud of or grateful for in your work, 2 things or persons that motivate you to continue your work with refugees, 1 kudos or compliment for the colleagues in the IRTS group or for the organization. I'm just gonna share the link. Can't stop it. Yes, so in the chat you have a link to a mural where you will find 3 circles. It might be that the view will be a bit funny, so try to zoom it out. You can enter as a visitor. Okay, I see people coming in. Yes. Yeah, so on the left side, you have different tools. And one of them is actually also post-it notes. So the task is actually to reflect on the 3 questions and then put your answers in the circles. So the yellow one is the things you're grateful for. The blue one is for the motivation, and the greenish one is for the kudos or the compliments. Try to play around with it a bit. Let me know if you have difficulties. We can help. We're testing this tool, so it's yeah, technology. A lot of things happening. Does anyone have a question? It's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be a fun mess. Enjoy it. Okay, someone is sharing the screen.
Yeah,
Laura,
that's me. That's me.
Yes, yes, okay.
Sorry, Monica, would you mind sharing your screen? Because I see that a lot of people are still...
That's what I'm thinking as well. Yes,
So,
I will. Yes, I will write down the questions again. Just a second. The questions are also actually in the. So you have the questions in the chat, and the questions are also up in the circles. Okay, I'll share the screen, Laura. Just
if you don't see the 3 circles, try zooming in or out of the mural board. So that might help, because I see a lot of people are still on the left-hand corner of it.
It's a bit messy one. So yeah, if you click on maybe I can do the private one. So yes, let's do this.
And to enter your sticky note, you just need to double click on anywhere in the screen, preferably inside the 3 big circles.
Everything is covered now.
While we're waiting, Monica, maybe you can read out some of the answers to others.
Yes, I'm just trying to if I can see them, because now I can't. It's in a private mode. Oh, I love this. This is so many different things. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna take the right to read some of the things you're grateful for. So health, joy, learning, being able to keep up the work despite all the restrictions. Tough situation, but we're whoop. Okay. I can't see the tough situation one anymore. Yes, working with awesome people. Yes, tough situation, but we're still alive and kicking through that. Okay. I'm not working, I'm volunteer. So first of all, I'm grateful to be able to dedicate my time to the projects. So what motivates you? It's also players, I assume. Whoop. We are a family even in bad times. We're still a family, not only a team. Also grateful to have a work. Yeah, that's a good one. We provide assistance even though on an overall level. Learning, joy, flexibility, teamwork motivates you. Being able to keep up the work despite all restrictions, colleagues, hope, friends. Does anyone, whoa, does anyone wants to share their own or say something? What motivates you? Do something that no one else is doing. Claudia Newstrand inspired me. I have no idea who it is, but it sounds awesome. Refugees themselves. Yeah, that's a good one as well. The visible improvement of the integration. Carlo and Sashka motivate you. Very good. Think I can help some help to someone, making a difference in society world. Yes. Okay, feel free to add more. We'll try to organize these after the session and have it sent to you for motivation, inspiration when the times get a bit rough, when you don't have so much motivation. Also to remind you, like, you're doing a very good job, even though we're in the COVID times, we're all trying to do something, which is super important, I think. Yes. So I'll stop sharing this one. I think we're done for today. The only thing I would like to share with you is our next webinar. Most of you heard about it already. The next one will be held in May. And as mentioned, the topic will be never stop learning. So we'll be exploring the tools and toolkits and ways how we can train the trainers, refugees. And if any of you have these tools or have great examples, please do let me know, because then we can involve you somehow. Otherwise, yeah, that's it for today. I'll see you in May, if not before. Thank you everyone for the participation, for very active participation, for trying out new tools as well. The mural, hope you had fun. And take care of yourself and the people around you. Have a lovely day.